And welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the program, and it is show 104. Excited to be back on with you and excited to be talking education, talking leadership, talking life here on the program. So let's get started. It is in the afternoon here, and we are going to welcome in our guest here shortly. Robb from Virginia is going to be joining us. He is an author. He's an educator. He's a TED talker. How cool. I'm so pumped up to talk about what that looked like for him. And look at this. Siri's talking back to me here. What's happening? Siri, you are not the guest today, so knock it off. But I'm excited to talk to Evan about those things and the work he's doing. Here are two of his most recent books. And unbelievably, he's got another one coming out here shortly. But we're gonna talk about it. I haven't had a chance to read Team Makers here, but we are gonna talk to him about the 10-minute principle and certainly about Team Makers. So I'm pumped to have him on, and appreciate him giving of his time. A little commercial here. If you've watched this program before, you know I developed a relationship with Rocketbook, and this is the Surviving and Thriving Rocketbook. It's arrived. It's the Andrew Murata custom-made one. And I am going to be taking my notes here today. I'm looking forward to learning a lot from Evan. I'm going to take those notes today here, and then I'm going to send them to my Google Drive. I'm going to share them with Evan. If you don't know what Rocketbook is, it is a reusable smart notebook. And I can write on here, and then when I'm done, I can scan it. It's going to go to my Google Drive. It's going to go to my email, all of that kind of stuff. And I will not lose those notes. You can designate where you want it to go here, Dropbox, Evernote, all of that kind of stuff. I'm a fan of Google Drive and my Gmail. It will also transcribe it if you write neatly. So I'm happy to offer this 20% off. Murata20 is the code on my website, andrewmurata.com. Again, and thanks to Rocketbook for sponsoring the show and getting the custom-made Rocketbook here. So check that out. Also, certainly rocketbook.com. It has more information. So in preparing for the show and reflecting on the show, I was thinking about, again, I read the 10-minute principle here by Robb. This is through Corwin. What a great book for school principals. I mean, our world here, our life. I had a few minutes to chat with Evan before the show started, and all of the things that come our way. It is like a highway of speed, exiting on, exiting off, twists and turns, and that's just in one day. All the things that come our way, and Evan does a great job of breaking down so many different things that can help a principal. Social media, dealing with parent conflicts or parent meetings, walkthroughs, purposeful meetings, interactive teacher-led faculty meetings, all short snippets that we as principals need and can use to help us get us better. If you're a principal that's watching, an assistant principal that's watching, you know what I'm talking about in terms of breaking up your day, owning your time. And this is a great book. I'm excited to ask Evan about it, and just different tips that you can use. If you are watching live, we'd love to interact with you. I'd love to have a comment, whether it's on Twitter or certainly here live on Be Live. But leave us a comment, leave us a question, and Evan and I will work that into the program. But without further ado, let's bring Evan into the program. And there he is, live from Virginia. Evan, welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond.
Hey man, Andrew, I am so excited to be here today. I am a big fan of your work. Love the book, The Principle, Surviving and Thriving. Watch your videos, and really excited that we can get some time to have a conversation today.
Cool. I know we hit a foul tip last week, and we were quick to get back to it, and I appreciate you making us time here on a busy day. Evan, let's jump right in. You're doing so much. You're having such a great impact. I was at a conference last week in New York, and And, people asked about on Twitter who they're following, things like that. And your name was one of the first I heard. So you're having an impact on our country and the world of education. You've written 4 books now: Principal Leadership, the Robb Review, Leadership Trainings, and you've done a TED Talk. We have a lot to get into, but let's start in your day job. Let's start in the role that you serve each and every day at your middle school in Virginia. Why don't you tell us about being a principal at, let me get the name right. Where is it?
Johnson Williams Middle School.
Johnson Williams Middle School. There you go. Let's start there, Rob.
Okay. Wow. That's a really nice introduction. So thank you very much for that, Andrew. I have been a principal since 1999. And interesting enough, the school where I'm a principal right now, I came back to this school in 2004, but I actually started my teaching career in this school I'm going to date myself, but say back in the very early 1990s. And I have found it's a little unusual for people to stay in admin jobs, especially the building level, for a long, long time. But I love it. My school has about 480 kids. We are small, at least for the state of Virginia, in a wonderful community with supportive parents, great teachers, great kids, and I have the absolute best day job in the world.
And Evan, you hear been principal since 1999. People always say, Andrew, are you going to move up? And I'm looking at like, well, where's up? I'm in a great spot right now. How come you haven't thought about going to district office?
The reason that I went into education was because I wanted to have a contact with teachers. I want to have contact with kids and contact with families. And, I don't sit in judgment of whatever career path people like to take. And we're fortunate. I'm fortunate. I have a lot of great people that work in our central office. But for me, it definitely was not for me. I like to be in the building, around what's going on in the classrooms, being able to make connections with kids, make connections with parents. And you and I probably have something in common in this regard, in that going up out of the building is not necessarily a promotion in my mind. I kind of feel like I'm where I've always wanted to be right now as a building level principal.
And when did you realize that, Evan, right? I mean, people say that the life of a principal is 4 years, 5 years. Obviously, you're doing some things right there that you've been able to, again, you mentioned survive and thrive, right? When did you realize, like, this is my spot? I know where I'm supposed to be.
I think that's a really good question. So both of my parents were educators, Andrew. My dad was a college professor, and my mother was a teacher and is a speaker and a literacy coach right now, and a rather prolific writer also. But I think, like a lot of kids that grew up in families where, the parents were educators, I spent a lot of time trying to push away from that and look for a different path. And so when I went through college, I decided to go into business and went to an MBA program, earned an MBA in finance, and thought I was going to go down that path. But right about the time that I was finishing up my MBA, I had this just a realization that that was not the path that I wanted to go down, and really teaching was what I wanted to do. So I went into teaching, and I didn't go into teaching necessarily with aspirations of being an administrator, but that was just a natural outgrowth, I think of my journey. I had some really good administrators when I was in school, some people that I looked up to, and that probably had a little bit of influence on me. But I think that teaching and the experience of teaching, and in wanting to be able to expand my reach and hopefully inspire and help motivate teachers and create ultimately really good learning experiences for kids, that drew me into administration, and I've been there ever since.
And what would you say, Evan, if I surveyed students and staff and community members, how does Evan Robb lead? You've been an administrator for a long time now. What would you say is your leadership style?
I would say that I try to be a consensus builder. I try to be a collaborator. I try to inspire people. I have come to one of the things, if you're going to be in this business a long time, you need to realize that you cannot know everything and you cannot do everything. And one of the things that I do is I try to bring people onto my team that have skill sets that I don't have, and create a team that's strong, where people are empowered and people are encouraged to grow as leaders. So, but I hope that at the end of the day, people would say, I'm really kid-centered. I'm a kid advocate, try to create great opportunities for kids, and recognize that middle school is an extremely formative time for kids. And I and my staff in the building have the ability to influence that in a positive way or the opposite. And we certainly don't want to go that way.
Yeah. So you mentioned about those that you're working with and their skill sets. So specifically, like an assistant principal or a director that you're working with, if you're going to hire that person, are there things specifically that you would look for in that person when you're hiring them?
Yeah, it would depend a little bit. Of course, it depends a little bit on the job, but I am interested in people that are creative, people that are innovative, people that are risk takers, people that are really kid-centered. Absolutely interested in people that are loyal to the organization and committed to the school, and interested in people that view what we do as a profession, not as a job. And what I have found is that, if I bring people like that onto the team, their future path starts getting created by the good work that they do. And hopefully my job is to empower them and to create opportunities that they can grow as a leader. One of the things that I've seen, like a problem within building level leadership, is sometimes if people are insecure or they want to hoard power, they want to hoard knowledge within the organization. They don't want to let other people develop. They want to lead by being demanding or seeking compliance. Those things don't work. One of the things that I've seen is a real strong parallel between what happens in a good classroom and what happens, at the building level for a principal. So, you think about a classroom. Good classroom is about relationships, it's about connectivity, it's about having really clear expectations, about getting everyone on board in the team, letting people take risks, take chances where they're learning, giving people hope, giving kids second chances if they need that. But all of those things, are the same when a principal looks at working with a team of teachers and students within a building. Strong parallels. And I know obviously that you know that because I've read your book.
Well, it's a great point, right? The culture of the school, the things that are happening outside the classroom, if they're positive, they're going to trickle in there as well. So that's a great point.
Yeah, I think I'm really interested in the concept of culture within a building and, what that is and how you build it and the concept of repeating things over and over again and how that can become the culture of your building. So you want to make sure that what you're repeating has purpose and has some really good intentionality behind it in order to help kids learn better, and to help the organization. I don't want to digress here, but there's one other thing that I'd like to pose to you. I don't know if you've thought about this, and certainly people that are viewing, but recently I've read Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Outliers. And he has this really interesting concept in the building, and it's framed around this concept of 10,000 hours. And so what he says in the book is that to become an expert at something, it takes about 10,000 hours to get there. And he gives examples of sports, golfers, baseball players, runners, music,
the Beatles in Germany. Yep.
Yeah, he gives that example of how they started getting together, in early 60s, but they don't hit their apex until Sgt. Pepper in, I think, like 1967. So if you apply that thinking to building level leadership, it will take 4 to 6 years to become an expert at being able to do it. And one of the problems in America is people that are not making a commitment to being in the building. And the average middle school principal in America now is 3-4 year kind of range.
Wow.
They're never in the building long enough to become a real expert at what they're doing. And when that happens, communities lose out, teachers lose out, and really, unfortunately, kids lose out. So yeah, I'm a big believer that you've got to really put time into things to become really good at something.
Well, kudos to you for staying with those kids and being there 21 years, being a building level administrator. And that's awesome. But you mentioned risk taking, Evan, and you recently had a TED Talk, and that's a lot of things, including risking and going out there and putting yourself out there. It was a Fieldstone, 2 ways to jump into a pool. Tell me everything. Like, tell me about starting it, the idea, the preparation. Tell me everything that went into that experience.
Okay, it's a really cool story. So through social media, I met so many really great people and love to be able to connect and have built some really powerful connections. So that came about by a connection that I had with Chris Felicello and Gary Armida, who are in North Rockland. And I will show this. I love their book, The Teacher and the Admin.
There you go.
Chris and Gary are great guys. If you're not following them, you want to connect with them and check out their book. It is wonderful. So Chris had a dream, to create a TEDx event, and he's a can-do kind of guy. And so he working with a really dynamic group of people up there in North Rockland, envisioned TEDx Fieldstone. And he had contacted me and said, hey, you interested in coming up to North Rockland here and doing a TEDx talk?
Oh, I hope we didn't lose you, Evan. I got froze for a moment. Stick with us if you're watching live. Hopefully we didn't lose Evan. Evan, you with us? We're just about to hear about the TED Talk, and we had a technical problem here. Hopefully he can reconnect soon here. Well, if you are watching live, hang tight. I'm sorry we have a glitch here. I'm not sure what happened. We were firing right along here. We lost him. Let's see if he's going to come back on, everyone. While he's filling in, I will fill in some points here from the 10-minute principle. Again, he was starting to talk about his TED Talk here. But this is Evan's book, The 10-Minute Principle, and I just found it phenomenal. For someone that has ADD, for someone that has a high energy, for someone that is moving quickly, this book really did help me. It dialed me in. I enjoyed reading it. They're short little snippets, things that say like, try this, here's a pitfall. And they're short little things. It's not a big thing filled with data and all that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed it. Look, here's a little 10-minute tip that he puts in here. 10-minute opportunity. These are small opportunities for success. It was very, very well done. So hopefully we can talk to Evan about it a little bit more here. Did we lose you? Let's try to find out what happened. Hang tight. All right. Let's try to find out what's happening. You okay? I'm going to text Evan here. I don't want to turn off our live feed here, so I guess this is one of the dangers of being live and doing your show live here. So hang tight, everyone. He was doing such a good job. I wanted to hear about this TED Talk. In Fieldstone, he mentioned Gary Armida and Chris Felicello from North Rockland. Check out their videos on YouTube. Really great stuff. And we're going to have those guys on the show. I did just get a copy of their book as well. So we'll break from Evan for a moment. I do want to share a little bit in Port Jervis, New York today. We did have a great wellness day at our school. It was fantastic. It was a day for the kids. I want to give a shout out to Blaze Gomez from Channel 12 News in New York. Did a great job as our keynote speaker. And we had community members in our school about volunteerism. And there he is.
Yeah, I don't know what happened over there, the joys of technology.
You made it back on.
Yeah, I hope I stay on. So I need to adopt the Northeast vibe here and now talk faster just to make sure I get everything in. So I guess I'll go back a little bit to
the Fieldstone, the TED Talk. Yeah.
So I had to think about what I wanted to do it on, and I thought about what I learned is that if you're going to do a TEDx talk, you have to do about something that has relevance to you, because if you're going to tell a story, the best story to tell is your story. A story that you know best, which is probably the best way to write a book also, which is to write a book that has relevance to you. So it is called 2 Ways to Get into a Swimming Pool, and it is based on a true story. In fact, the swimming pool that I took that high dive off is only about 10 miles from where I still live right now. And but I saw the high dive as a metaphor for life, where you can take chances or you can play it safe. And I had an opportunity to kind of reflect on people within my family. Enjoyed speaking about my grandfather, who is someone that certainly took some leaps by coming to America as an immigrant in the early 1900s with really nothing. and creating a life for himself. And so I try to, and the message is a powerful one to me, and it's something that I certainly like sharing with my staff too, which is if you want to find the personal greatness that's in you, and I do believe that it's
Oh man, we got to connect that. Yeah, there we go.
you have to be willing to take some chances. And so that's the message of the TEDx talk, which is take some chances. You'll find something. You might be a little nervous while you're doing it, but you have the potential to find something great.
Yeah, it was fantastic. The whole thing was well done, Evan. What was something that you loved from it? And then looking back in reflection, if you could go back and do it again, I would change this, or I would have added this, or that's something that didn't work for you. So what was a positive and what was something that you didn't love?
I think a positive from it was the discipline that I learned to memorize. And I always felt like I'm one of these guys that can like hear songs. So like you're New York, New Jersey guy, so like love Bruce Springsteen, so hear a Bruce Springsteen song and I can memorize the lyrics pretty well. But trying to get 17 or 18 minutes of something written down that doesn't have rhyme or rhythm to it, that doesn't have music to it, is really challenging. And I underestimated how difficult that was. It probably took about an hour a day for about 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
I was really, really diligent with my practice because you want to be able to deliver it so it appears that it's not memorized. I mean, you want to know it so well, so like that it looks like you're just going out on stage and you're telling the story. But there's a massive amount of preparation that goes into it. And so if I had a chance to do that again, I probably would have liked to have a little more time, because I can't say that my first version of that was 24 minutes and you have to keep it under 18.
18 minutes, yeah.
You do. And from feedback that I've gotten from people, probably would have integrated some more stories about my grandfather and his impact on my life, and and how he helped shape the person that I am today. But at the end of the day, it's interesting, Andrew. My grandfather died a long time ago. In fact, he died in 1980. And so this has been a nice way for me to honor someone who had an incredible influence on me when I was a kid, and to be able to share his story to thousands of people. So that's wonderful, and that's a gift that Chris Felicello offered to me when he invited me, and I'm forever grateful to him for that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that you did that, and kudos to you. Did you have to have it memorized? You can't have note cards with you or something like that?
I think that there's no one way to do it. And I guess my advice to anyone that's watching this who's thinking about doing a TED Talk or being offered to do a TED Talk is just do it the way that you feel is most comfortable for you. For me, I'm more comfortable if I understand, if I have it memorized and I can kind of deliver it that way. I think some people can use note cards, but the TEDx is a bit of it's not like giving a keynote. I guess you have to think of it like you're almost in a TV studio. So you want to make sure that you're able to make eye contact with the camera instead of having to look down at a note card or something like that. But some people do that, and it can certainly be effective if they do it that way. I just did it the way that made the most sense to me. Cool. But it is fun, and to you, because you have such a great message, and you're a really, really great speaker. You'll be awesome in a TEDx talk, so no doubt that'll come your way one day. And my best advice is when it does, just say a quick yes, and then kind of figure out what it's going to be. Absolutely.
Start memorizing. Oh, I got it. I'm ready.
Absolutely.
I have it written in my head, and I read Talk Like TED, and I think us as school leaders, wherever we present, at a faculty meeting, at a workshop, in front of our kids, we have to know how to present. It's part of, I think, being a leader and being an effective communicator. So just to add that to your, all the great things you're doing, I think was awesome. And it was well done. You looked very professional, and the message was cool, right? Because everyone loves to the summer and the pool time.
Yeah, I really appreciate your words. That means a lot to me, especially from someone like you who has so much experience. I will share that this past summer, I actually did go back to that swimming pool, and I did it again.
Nice.
As a grown man, it was still just as exciting to do right now as it was when I was 12 years old. So yeah, it was a really good experience. Absolutely.
Evan, you're talking about your grandfather immigrated to the country. You mentioned your mom, and you just had a great thing here with writing this book with your mom. You seem to have wonderful relationships with your family. You seem very close. I know you're married. You have two grown children. You have your grandchildren. Amelia and Liam. Like, tell me about your family and how they fit into all of your work as a school leader and all that. But you seem to have great bonds with your family.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I my mother lives right around the block from me, and so my wife and I have a home. It's just less than a quarter mile away from where my mom lives, and in the house that I grew up in when I was a kid. And
Wow.
my sister actually lives about a block away from that. So we've been very close knit. Like a lot of families, my family has unfortunately shrunk, over time. I have memories when I was a kid of the family being so much larger, but time time happens, and people pass away. But I've been lucky to be able to maintain really tight bands with my mother, my father when he was alive, of course, my grandparents, and the other people within my family. Family is everything. And I try to communicate that certainly, within my leadership also, because, and this, a school has to feel like a family, when you're, when everyone's together in the building. The schools that don't feel like families are never happy places for people to work, and they're not good places for kids. And if you're a principal long enough, you'll experience staff who experience everything that everyone else experiences in life, from a death of a family member to the birth of a child to the a child driving for the first time or a child going off to college, all those things. And those are bonds. They build culture within the building, and they're important in our personal lives. And there's a way that they can extend also into our professional lives also.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I'm
good.
very, very proud grandfather also, and,
Yeah.
which is wonderful.
Get them reading those books.
Absolutely.
It's only 10 minutes. I want to talk a little bit about this before we get to you and your mom's book. Again, when we were off air, I was sharing for someone, with ADD, for someone that's high energy. I just found this the perfect fit because our lives as principals are so busy. Tell me, what was the inspiration, Evan, and where did you come up with the 10-minute concept?
Well, it is exactly what you just said, and hearing your words makes me really feel really, really great. So when I wrote this book, I purposely wanted to write a book that you did not have to read from the first page to the last page of the book. Mm-hmm. And as you look at the book, and I appreciate you, I know that you've read the book, you'll know that there's headings within the index and a lot of parallel structure from each chapter. So there's 10-minute tips, 10-minute collaborations, 10-minute opportunities. And I share some stories, and I share some positives, and I also share some blunders that I made along the way, because I think it's important to be honest about your path. But I wanted to create something that would create an easy access point for someone at any time during their day or during the school year. So, if you say, okay, I want to learn a little about social media. Well, there's a chapter in there. You want to learn about running effective meetings. There's a chapter in there. Or I put some QR codes in so you can access some podcasts and hear me talking a little more and expanding on some of the elements that are within the chapter. I think that you'll agree with this too. I've been a principal for 20 years. I in no way, shape, or form feel like I know all the answers. In fact, in a lot of ways, I'm less sure about certain things than I was when I was 32 years old. But I do know that leadership is about evolving, and part of leadership and part of the responsibility of leadership is to share with people some things that you learn that may be able to help them along the way and along their journey. And at the end of the day, that's what this book is. This book was an opportunity for me to share some things that I've learned that may help some people along their path. And if it does that, then I feel really good about the book.
Well, growing and expanding, evolving, you're on fire. You had this book come out recently. You just launched this with your mom, and now again you have a fourth book coming out. Where are we here?
It's called A School Full of Readers.
Yeah, and is this also with your mom? Is that correct?
I covered that with her. Yeah.
And that's coming out this month, correct?
That should be out mid-November. Yeah,
okay.
through Benchmark Publishing. And it's been really fun for me to write with my mother, and it's interesting as we grow older, your relationships with your parents change as time goes on. When you're a kid, your parents have a different role than when you're an adult. And my mother is a professional colleague, and but still in certain ways, a teacher, because she has been a strong influence on me developing as a writer. She is a far more prolific writer than I am, and cut from a cloth that I can only admire. But I do enjoy working with her and being able to collaborate that way. And it was a motivation for Team Makers and the motivation for a school full of readers. She's a literacy coach, and for a school full of readers, we wanted to kind of combine what's the principal's role in creating and supporting and developing a school that has a culture of reading, and then what could be the role of a literacy coach or a department chair or an English teacher within the building to help kind of create that good symbiosis between the leadership that the principal can collaboratively build within their team, and then the role of the teacher or the coach within the classroom to build that culture. So yeah, I collaborate with her all the time, and I'm very blessed to be able to do that, and it's fun. Look forward to more collaborations.
And Evan, I don't know if you have this experience. There's so many school leaders that have talked about, I want to write a book, or I have some stories, or I have an idea for a book. What is your process to actually sitting down, pen to paper, fingers to keyboards, and getting going? Like, did you make, all right, Mom, we're going to write from 8 to 10 on Saturday mornings? Was it like, how did you go about scheduling it to actually physically do it?
It is not easy to do, and I'm going to share some of my techniques, but I'm actually interested in hearing some of yours too, because I think that's one of those things that people try to figure out and kind of learn on their own. I didn't do a web search to kind of figure out how to do that. So a couple things that I found. For me, I need to really create a really tight outline to write. And so I spend a lot of time outlining the book, what would be the chapter title, what would be the headings within the chapters, what would be the elements that are within the chapter. And that gives me a framework, because I'm one of those people that writes better within a framework than just kind of opening up a Google Doc and just kind of firing away, a text, onto my computer. My goal is always to write at least 4 hours during the week and 5 to 7 hours on the weekend. And I would stick with that pretty well. I found I'm a pretty disciplined writer, but part of the problem with that is I need to feel sometimes creative to write. And after a long day, sometimes I'm tired and I'm not feeling really inspired to write. But what I found for me was that having an outline allowed me to write, even if I wasn't as inspired to write as I might have at other times. But at the end of the day, you just have to be very disciplined with it. There are a lot of people that talk about writing a book, but there are not a lot of people that write books. And writing books is challenging. And, one of the things that, if you're working a full-time job also, you have to figure out how to put that into your life in a way that's positive without negatively impacting the other aspects of your life. And I appreciate you pointing out, I'm absolutely a family person. So I'm not the kind of person that wants to write and forsake my family. I want to find some balances that I can be creative, that I can get the work done, but also have the other elements in my life in place also. So at the end of the day, just disciplined writing. So now I'm going to turn it at you and say, how did you write The Principle, Surviving and Thriving? What were some techniques that you could share?
Yeah, no, and I enjoyed hearing that. Someone challenged me. I tell the story when people ask me about it. I went and spoke to a college class, and the gentleman gave me 10 books. And when I left that class, 2 of them were his. And he says, well, where's your book? Andrew, this was great. And I said, Doc, I can't write a book. I have 3 little kids. I'm a high school principal, college basketball referee. I can't even go to the bathroom. What are you talking about? And he said, you were awesome. You got to do it. He said, just write down everything you do as a principal. You're a great school leader. He said, just write it down. So I was on the way home. Again, ADD. I wasn't texting and driving, but I did talk to text on the way home. It was an hour drive. I had 60 things, Evan, on the way home.
Wow.
The next day at school, I didn't have my Rocketbook at the time, but I always keep a pad with me. Mm-hmm. I had 40 more things. So in less than 24 hours, I had 100 tips. And then once I had the tips, kind of like you described with the outline, I said, well, I will do 5 tips today. I'm going to do this. Another thing I found, again, managing our time, owning our time, looking at our wellness. I do very well walking and talking. Mm-hmm. So some of the book was talk to text, and I spoke it into the phone, literally walking, because that energy, that oxygen, that blood flow helps my creativity. And you have to go back and edit a lot with that, but that was one of the things that worked for me.
Yeah. About how long did it take you to get a really good workable first draft?
6 months, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say 6 months. I did mine back when I was refereeing too. So if I didn't have a game, if I was down in the Shenandoah Valley down there on Route 81 in Winchester, and I was at either UVA or James Madison, that game might not be till 7. Well, I was at the hotel maybe at 10, and that would give me some hours to write. Or if I stayed overnight at the hotel, being in that confined space always helped me too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot of similarities, being really disciplined about, generating the ideas and then being disciplined about getting them into a format that can communicate your message and benefit other people. Yeah.
Evan, let me ask you this. You're writing books, you're physically fit, you're a high school principal, you got grandkids. How do you continue to sharpen your saw? What are some things that you do for your own wellness? For your own, keeping yourself sharp. What are some things that you do?
Yeah, I found that, especially as I've gotten older, to be more and more important. My wife and I'm lucky because my wife likes to exercise with me. And so we exercise at least 5 days a week. Right. And we either do it early in the morning at about 5:30 at our local gym, or we do it in the evening, typically before dinner, sometimes on a weeknight. And for me, that means about 30 minutes of cardio and about 30 minutes of circuit training with weights and spending a little time with stretching and doing some core work. And it makes all the difference. I tell you, Andrew, I had this moment about 3 or 4 years ago where I had this one day where I kept having to walk up and down the steps in the building a lot and started feeling my pulse racing and, my breath short. And I just thought, I am not going to be good in my job to be able to motivate and be effective if I'm not taking care of myself. So through everything that I do, whether it's members working on the TED or writing, I always make sure that I'm getting some time for fitness, and to work on my eating also, because I think as you get older, what I find is the amount of food that I could eat when I was 22 years old in college, if I eat that now, my suit will not fit me. So, I cannot do that. I can see the kids in my building eat a level of food that I no longer can eat. I'm sure you relate to that also with high school athletes. Yeah. Young boys can eat a lot of food.
Absolutely.
But, yeah. So important to get again that balance and to make sure that that I continue to invest in my health, because if I don't do that, I can't do the other things that I want to do.
And again, so many points in your book and things we've shared today is, us owning our time, being focused at school about and being intentional about it. And it's important for us as school leaders also being intentional outside of school, of building those relationships with family, spending time. And these books are inspiring for others, but they're also inspiring for us. Mm-hmm. For you to have cranked out 3 books here in that amount of time is just tremendous. So kudos to you, kudos to your mom for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. One of the things that I mentioned in my TEDx talk too is I believe that everything that we do is designed to give us exactly what we get. So I know that you do too, is have to be very intentional with what I do and where I put my time. So if I want to be fit, then I have to design my life to allow me to be fit. But if I just want to sit on the couch every night and eat Doritos, that's not designed for me to get fit. And then apply the same thing into work. And that's where the 10-minute principle comes in, which is only so many hours in the day. How can I be intentional and put the time into what makes the most sense to get the most benefit for students, for teachers, and for my community?
Evan, that was a great quote. Everything we do is designed to give us what we get. That was a great quote here. We might have to send that one out, man. That was great.
Thank you very much.
Someone mentioned to me the other day about, Random Acts of Kindness Week. And they said, forget random acts of kindness. We need to be intentional with those acts of kindness. And I that resonated with me as well.
I think intentional. And as you know, as a leader, genuine, because being genuine, especially with kindness and relationships, means trust, means everything. Because if genuineness isn't there, those things don't work.
Cool, Evan. We could talk for another 5 hours, I'm sure. But I know you have stuff to get to, and it is time to get to the rapid fire portion of the show here. So let's get ready to roll. Are you ready down there south of the border?
Man, I'm really excited about the rapid fire. That's a fun part of your show. So I want to make sure that I have some good responses to these awesome questions.
Cool. Here we go. Last movie you saw?
Avengers Endgame and Bohemian Rhapsody.
Look, I want to see that Bohemian Rhapsody.
It's a very good movie.
Favorite place to travel?
Favorite place to travel would probably be Bermuda.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you could go do a workshop anywhere in the United States, where is a cool place that either you've been already or you'd like to go and do a workshop?
I would like to do a workshop in Key West, Florida.
Nice. Early in the afternoon so you could get done.
Absolutely.
One of the greatest challenges in your work?
Not letting people down and feeling like that the decisions that I make are always in the best interest of kids. And I think the other piece, Andrew, is it's always a challenge when you're a principal to not compromise what you believe in.
Building consensus, collaboration, and then you meld it with not bending on certain things. That's a challenge. Yeah,
it is.
Man.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Absolutely. You mentioned some of the things that motivate you, a lot of things, but if I said, Evan, Robb, what is something that motivates you?
Man, one of the things that motivates me is people who are really passionate and inspired to do what they do. So I find inspiration. It's not that I'm interested in people that make a lot of money or have a lot of titles, but I'm always inspired by people that take tremendous pride and do the best at whatever it is they're doing. Really big motivator for me.
And something that gets under your skin. What's a pet peeve of yours?
I'll be honest on your podcast. A pet peeve of mine is when someone says I wrote the book that they were going to write. That's an honest response, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, they should have done it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Best purchase under $100 that has had a great impact on your life.
I don't know if it's under $100 enough, but my wife purchased Sirius XM for me.
Okay.
For my car. I love listening to music, big fan of everything from 70s classic rock to jazz and blues and classical music. And it is all there, in my car with a press of buttons. So that was a really good gift for me.
Tricky when you get in a car than a rental or something that they don't have it.
Yes. Yeah. I would want that in a rental if I could get it. Definitely.
Good for you, man. Something about Evan Robb that people do not know about.
That let me see. I'm a real stickler with my dress shirts, and that's an odd thing. But I would always, when I was younger, I would always get these shirts that were too big in the midsection, and I would have to blouse them in the back like a nice napkin. And that was a particular peeve of mine that I did not like. So I have moved to shirts that fit me a little bit better. It partially inspired by Vernon Wright at the Wright Leader, because he's a very slick dresser. And so that gets me motivated to try to make sure I'm presenting well for my position.
I love the T-shirt thing you had going on social media with him. That was cool.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, man. If you had a billboard with a message on it, what would that message be?
I think it would be the message that I shared with you a little while ago, that everything you do in your life is designed to give you exactly what you get.
I love it. Something that's been a hurdle for you, Evan, either personally or professionally.
A personal hurdle for me, believe it or not, was writing. I developed very, very late in my life as a writer, and did not think that I could really do it well, really almost all the way through graduate school. But as I reflect back on it and think about it, I just didn't really, for me, I didn't have people that taught me the way that I needed to learn writing. But over time, I overcame that, and I certainly don't feel I'm not going to write the next great American novel, but I am continue to gain confidence in myself as a writer and my ability to put into words the messages that I want to articulate.
Short-term personal or professional goal, 3 to 5 months.
I would like to expand my speaking. Because I love meeting educators and being able to make connections and share ideas. And one of the things that, and you know this also, writing is a very private experience. You spend a lot of time by yourself. And one of the things that it's affording me is an opportunity to get out there and to share my story and to meet people and be able to make connections in a different kind of way. So that remains an ongoing goal that I hope to achieve.
Okay. And 3 to 5 years, a longer goals.
I think in 3 to 5 years, I would like to write a couple more books. I would like to speak a little bit more and figure out probably a way to have a little more travel time with my wife so we can go and see some of the places that we talk about seeing at times that are not the most highest travel expense times during the year. Because as you know, when you work in education, our vacations fall at a time that airplane tickets and travel gets very expensive. So I'm very jealous of people that can go somewhere on a vacation in October or the end of September.
Yeah.
And so I look forward to being able to do that in the future.
And it's nice when you get a chance to speak at some of those places and maybe it's an afternoon, you have some time off, you're looking around like, wow, this is what real people do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, that 81 corridor up and down. I love traveling on 81.
That's great.
Evan, this was great. If someone did want to contact you about hiring you for a speaker, if they were interested in the book, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Thank you for asking that. My books are available on Amazon.com. You can connect with me on Twitter at Robb Principal if you haven't done that, at Evan Robb Principal, Facebook and LinkedIn. And for speaking, if you look me up on Premier Speakers. You can contact Premier Speakers, and I'd love to come and share some ideas and learn with educators in your school division or anywhere else in the world.
Yeah. Well, Evan, this was great. You had several great quotes here. We talked about your books, really inspired. And again, that message, not only as an educator, inspiring your staff and people, that community with your family, and hearing about your grandfather and your mom and your wife and your kids and your grandkids. I mean, you got the range there. So it's great to see someone being successful like you're doing, while maintaining a great family bond. So kudos to you and your family.
Well, I appreciate that very much, Andrew. And I'm so happy that I'm honored that you had me on your show. I'm really excited that we got to connect. And, you and I got connected through social media. And if we didn't connect that way, we probably would never have met. And that's the really exciting thing about being able to make connections with like-minded people. I love your book, recommend that anyone who has not read your book should get your book and read it. It's fantastic. And I am very inspired by your message and look forward to further connections in the future.
Cool. This is Evan Robb, everyone. Let's get this music fired up. Evan, I appreciate you coming on, looking sharp with the nice shirts there. And,
appreciate that.
Signing off here on Education, Leadership, and Beyond. Thank you so much, Evan. And let's get this fired up. We're going to sign off here. This is Evan Robb, everyone. Thanks, Evan.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay.